We feel called to bring the gospel and healthy church planting to the cities of Europe. Why cities? Well, in the 21st century, many things will happen that we cannot predict, but there's one thing that we can already say: the 21st century will be the urban century. So in the year 1900, only 3% of the world population lived in urban centers. And by the year, I think 2011, it became more of the half of the population. Probably around 2050, it will be 2/3 of the world's population. All cities in Europe, almost all cities grow massively. So the world is basically moving to the city. And we believe that the church needs to go where the people are. And we actually see in the Bible that God loves people. And because of that, he loves places where there is many of them. So, for example, the book of Jeremiah or the book of Jonah are great testimonies of God's love for cities because there's so many people. At the end of the book of Jonah, God says, how can I not love this great place, Nineveh, because of that many people? And we feel called to the cities. So City does ministry only in the urban centers. That doesn't mean that we don't think that churches or church plants in places outside of the cities are unimportant, but it is something that we just feel very much called from God to do. It's our specific calling. The city focus is something that City is very specific about, and that maybe divides us from other networks or organizations who help church plants everywhere. We feel called to the urban places, and we have a lot of experience in how to do urban church planting and urban ministry. And we think it is very important that we focus on the cities, because we believe that if we create movements of the gospel in the cities of Europe through healthy church planting and multiplication and network building and movements, that will have a deep impact on our whole continent. So if we see in the next decades movements of the gospel in places like London, Moscow, Paris, Vienna, Athens, Madrid, and all these huge cities in Europe, these growing urban centers, where more and more of those people that we try to reach live, then that will have an impact on all of our countries and all of our whole continent. And that is why cities are so strategic. They have always been, but now they are even more important because more and more people live there. And it often looks like that the church is quite weak in actually reaching these kind of people. The church seems to be still okay to reach people who are on the countryside, but we think it is very important to plant churches in the cities. It is a different kind of, some things are equal, but a lot is also different. How do you build and how do you start a church in an urban place? And that is what we're all about. So we do dream that God does something in our cities because it's so strategic, and that's where people actually live. And we need movements of the gospel in the urban centers of Europe.